Starting to the top right of the map is the Slayers player. He's called the King of Code A. For a reason, this is of course
Flares YugiOh.
And once again he has a chance to reach Code S, to break the spell. Here we have him.
Looking a little bit short in that booth actually.
Playing the lowrider style.
Yeah.
And starting to the top left of Whirlwind, we have his opponent, the Complexity player in blue, wearing a red shirt. It's the Protoss who calls himself
Complexity Killer.
You know, fitting team for him since he's such a complex person.
Ah.
He is, man. He's actually...
Aren't we all?
We are, man. Yeah. Everybody that's on Complexity really fits Complexity, I think, as everyone is complex.
Alright, I think... No, I'm sorry. Whatever, it wasn't meant that way. And
I know, but I tried to use it to save myself. It's actually my escape rope. I only had one and I used it. I got out.
The escape route, irritate Caldor, and it works.
Well, we have pool first again for YugiOh, but not on 12 like we saw it last time.
Yeah, this time he's going for a normal pool timing.
It's funny that you don't get a hatch first on a map of this size, though, you know? To be YugiOh in this situation is quite frustrating.
The thing is, the hatch first is actually something that you can definitely pull off here, because there is a lot of space behind the mineral patches, so you can use it. But on the other hand, we have Killer with the perfect scout, and therefore YugiOh did do a good job with starting with the pool first here. Killer was a little bit lucky with a scout to the top right. He immediately spotted his opponent and could have blocked the hatch first. But now we have for Killer the Forge being placed down after the Nexus, of course. YugiOh already with the first queen in the making. And I'm a little bit interested in what exactly YugiOh is going to pull off here. If he really goes for this late game style, or if he wants to prevent a third base, which is on World with something that you have a good shot at. Just because of how the third base works and all these ramps that lead into the third.
Yeah, the third base is it's easily accessible to the defender and the attacker, so you have to be very careful about how you execute your defense and be very aware of what your opponent may do. Killer already occupying the third base location, which since it's so far away, he can actually make a pylon here comfortably, and there's only 2 lanes out, so this is very annoying. Back at home, he went gate before cannon as well. Just, you know, trying to cut a few corners, make sure he can get ahead of his opponent. His Nexus is going to finish up now. He's taking those gases right on time. And he will cancel the pylon.
Yep, there's the cancel and the hatch, delaying it a little bit. Now YugiOh has to build it at 420. Could have built it like 10 seconds earlier. But in the end, it doesn't really matter all that much. He still gets a very early expansion. And of course also the second queen. So far we have YugiOh without an extractor. He's completely relying on the minerals, is not getting any gas for an early speed, and Killer is just happy to build his wall and make sure that there are no run-bys, no Zerglings in his main base. But the transition is going to be the interesting one. Actually, a lot of Protoss players on positions like this on Whirlwind decide to go for a Stargate.
This is true. Probe actually sneaks in. He was able to keep it alive. Oh, just barely not. Kept it alive after the hatchery scout with a pylon to distract the lings away from it. 6 more drones on the way, and Killer's still not revealing that tech yet. There's the core. +1 is started. Warp gate research as well. We may just see old school Zealot timing here.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of them being really successful, especially on smaller maps, but on a map like this, you are probably not going to expect that.
Yeah. That's certainly right. It's very difficult to get the Zealots in a position where they can hide, especially with how open this map is. Extra gas is going up for Killer as well. He's really kind of playing this one like a mystery. He's not really showing anything to anybody, and his gases are now done. He still could add the gateways, but with the faster gases, it's hard to add the gateways quickly.
We have the gas also for YugiOh now. He starts with a double extractor very late in the game. He has already a decent count with the 2, needs the third, of course. Not getting any extras for the creep spread, just trying to make sure that 1 hatch can be injected by a queen. 1 hatch per queen. And Killer does not go for any kind of production abilities right now. He wants to kill the Overlord first.
Yeah, and once the Overlord is dead, he knows where the second one is based on his pylon placement, and here's the robotics. And he chases the second Overlord away, so Looks like we're going to see that 1-1 timing attack with Immortals, and this is actually really well hidden from YugiOh. The most frustrating position to be a Zerg ever when you don't know what your opponent's tech is, but look at that! Twilight Council and Gates.
Looks like Blinkstalkers.
Yeah, it's what it's definitely starting to look like.
There they are, the gateways, and for YugiOh, if he's going to face a Blinkstalker build, it's going to be very important to have something that can control the Stalkers a little bit. Burrow is one of the things that you can use when your opponent doesn't have a robotics, but Killer has it. So he will have an Observer most likely in order to just back things up. And Burrow will not help YugiOh a lot. But he needs Infestors, he needs Fungals if he wants to really prevail against such a build.
YugiOh also does not have vision of the Forge. He did not say if it was researching +1 at all, so he is just really... I mean, he's taken the macro hatch, which is always smart, and that was a big problem for him in his last Zerg versus Protoss, but he's still very much in the dark, so he has to kind of play textbook in a way, but it's going to be hard to know how to put on the Roach production, for example, when he doesn't see what's happening just yet.
+2 has been started, but no Blink so far.
Yeah, he just wants to hit a fast +2. Obviously, Blink takes longer to research than +2, but it's like it's still possible that he goes for this attack, and he's going to take a third Nexus. Wow, gets it right before the Overlord spreads the creep. That is a weird sight, man.
Yeah, that was really, really close.
That's the first time I've ever seen a Nexus on creep.
That's a Blink upgrade, so he goes for the Blink and for the +2, but he still takes the third here. Has a really high sentry count regardless. He could actually...
Cancellation is possible, but he is making the cannon, and even with the third base though, Killer is actually going to be the one who has to face the Ling pressure once again from YugiOh, now going up to 34 Lings, not quite 70 like we saw in the previous game, but this is a lot. The cannon is not done. He's going to bait out some force fields here, and he gets a lot of information. He knows, okay, this Nexus is very much for real.
And we have the drop play being researched for YugiOh. So dropping Roaches and Zerglings onto your opponent's army is always something that you... Well, dropping Banelings is awesome. Dropping the rest, for example Roaches, is usually not what you really want to do against Immortals. But on the other hand, if you get into the main base or drop 2 positions at once, or kind of try to get your opponent out of position, make him run into the main to defend, and then you hit the third base, this is something that is really hard to deal with. So a lot of units are being built for YugiOh, and the drop play will just be, these upgrades will just be lined up perfectly with this.
Yeah, he's got 72 Lings actually, exactly, once again, and he is ready to use them. This drop play could be deadly if he decides to drop from the left side. Yeah, there's a pylon to spot in the main, but it's going to be too late at that point. It's so far away if his units are at the 30, he has to walk such a long distance. Blink obviously can help him get Stalkers in the main, but he's going to need more than that because it's a very Zealot-heavy composition right now with 11 Zealots on the map.
And here comes the Zerglings and the Roaches.
They're all shown to the Observer though, and this is a big problem for YugiOh, as Killer can position his units properly now.
And he does.
Second Observer will spot a possible run by. Does not know about the Overlords, however.
The Overlords are on the top of the map right now, but with all the units that YugiOh has, Killer must suspect that there's something coming his way. And with him getting Blink, that will help him, of course, a lot to control these Overlords. But now we have the drop to the left side of the map with 5 Overlords. At the top, there's also a lot of them, and he needs to get out of here. And that's exactly what he does. He's going to hit the natural and the main base at the same time.
Yeah, great double prong attack here. You could go for the main, you could go for the third. The choice is his. And here come the drops into the natural. He's getting some at the third base and some at the main. A great strategy for this map since they're so close in proximity to each other.
He tries taking down everywhere. The timings are slightly off, and this gives Killer the chance to defend his natural and then move straight into the main base to take down the second drop.
Yeah, this is great multitasking here by Killer, just splitting his Stalkers in 3 different directions. The idea is good. It's a great map for this, but a great trade so far for Killer. The Infestation Pit is on the way back at home for YugiOh, but he did not do a lot of damage here.
Well, he killed 22 Harvesters, so it's quite a decent amount of units that he was able to take down. He did not trade perfectly here, not really all that cost efficient, but at least he was able to shut down the income of Killer quite significantly.
Yeah, Killer with triple pro protection will catch up soon, but he needs to do something more than that. He needs to actually put some pressure on. He's got great upgrades, 2-1 upgrades finished for him right now. The Roaches at just +1, no Carapace upgrades whatsoever. This is exactly why YugiOh is attacking right now. He knows that if his opponent attacks him, he's going to struggle, but if he actually just keeps forcing these units back time and time again with the positions on this giant map, he's going to be quite successful at slowing Killer down.
Also important is the fourth base that we have now in the game for Yu-Gi-Oh! To the bottom right of the map there is a fourth. And, well, he has... Look at his minerals just. One of the problems that he had on Atlantis Spaceship in... Antigua Shipyard in the earlier game that he played against Vampire was that he just didn't have the lava. This time it's not going to be such a huge problem because he has the macro hatch already in his main base, and in total he has 5 hatches, a lot of lava available to him.
He's just got to make sure to hit those injects.
Yeah.
The army supply is actually in favor of Killer right now, and he's got the better upgrades, but he's just constantly forced to stay at home with the potential of additional drops, Ling run-bys, and with all the observers on the map, Killer sees what he doesn't want to see, sees that there are units in position to run by and hit him, so he has to stick at home. Continuing his 3 probe at a time production, but still not quite able to keep up with the worker count of Yu-Gi-Oh! After all those workers were lost from the attack.
As a Protoss, you're always happy to play on a max supply army because you know that your own army is usually stronger. The problem is just the composition in the late game that you are often facing. But Yu-Gi-Oh! At this point is getting 11 Infestors, which is getting a bit out of hand. So that's exactly the start of this unit type composition thingy that Killer does completely try to avoid. If we have a hive tech for Yu-Gi-Oh! And him going for a Broodlord composition, that might be something that Killer is not ready to handle just yet. But on a map like this, you don't have to really go for Broodlords. It's a huge map, and if your air units are caught out of guard, or out of position off guard, then you are in a tough spot to save them, and you might just lose the game. But here already comes the hive tech, and let's see what kind of late game composition Yu-Gi-Oh! Tries to use.
Yeah, on a map like this, Ultralisk can work. There's a lot of open spaces to fight on, but Broodlords are a little bit exposed in the middle of the map.
He goes for the Spire though, and therefore decides to go for the Broodlord tech here.
Yeah, I think most players prefer Broodlords even on large maps like this.
As long as you keep your Infestors alive, everything is fine. And he has this 11, he's getting additional 7. He will have 18
Infestors, that is insane.
Yeah. With 18 Infestors, you have so much support for the Broodlords that you should be fine.
And the problem for Killer is he's been stuck on his bases for so long that Yu-Gi-Oh! Has been allowed to have this 4th base up for practically forever, mining gas from there for a really long time. And so he's just got all the tech in place now, and Killer does not have any sort of Stargate tech to start his fleet beacon. He's getting charged Zealots, he's getting more Archons in the mix, and with the Warp Prism coming out here, I think he just wants to try to kill Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now and not take a 4th.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Is deciding to take another base. He's already taking base number 5, whereas Killer doesn't have the 4th. Moving into the creep now and taking down the tumors. This is a pretty scary composition that he has here. But he does not have too much area effect damage. Only those 3 Archons that can do a little bit, but the Greater Spire will be started very soon as the Spire is just finished. But look at those Pescitarans already being called down.
He's just kind of showing the power here, saying, well, I've got so much energy, I can actually afford to drop all these Pescitarans. Great fungal on these Zealots, gets the Warp Prism as well. But the army of Killer is insane right now. The Broodlords are not ready. Killer up 15 army supply here, and the Immortals are still alive and kicking. These Spinecrawlers, not all of them are quite ready yet. He has bungles, but he has to hit all the units, and there's just too much.
There is a lot, and Killer now trying to hit the timing before the Greater Spire is completed, and those Archons rip through the Zerglings without a problem at all. The infested Terrans, that's what he has to deal with now, though. And Yu-Gi-Oh! Is about to max out once again. He's at 200 supply against 120.
Yeah, all the Immortals falling here to infested Terrans, and with 22 Roaches in the mix. Yeah, his fungals weren't able to fungal everything, but at the end of the day, the infested Terrans just did too much extra DPS.
We have Yu-Gi-Oh! Playing a numbers game, and Killer is not ready to compete. He just does not have the economy to back this up. He's on 3 bases, whereas Yu-Gi-Oh! Has currently 5 bases available to him.
The Killer did kill 19 workers with a little bit of a Zealot attack, but it's just... The problem is he cannot move out ever again. He still doesn't have a 4th Nexus, and the second one is made. Yu-Gi-Oh! Will kill it. He's got burrowed Lings at the potential 4th. Any other base on the map that Yu-Gi-Oh! Does not occupy has Overlord creep on it, so anytime he tries to take a base, Yu-Gi-Oh! Will know about it, send his max start army to force a cancel, and Killer's run out of money. Look at his resources actually stack up. He's got 400, 500 gas, 1,200 minerals, but he's nowhere near max. He just does not have enough production facilities.
And the Greater Spire is now done. He can't really morph in any Broodlords because he's lacking the supply. But on the other hand, we have the base at the bottom right already been spotted by Killer. And he warps in units. That's to take down the 5th base. Really well done. These small attacks is exactly what he needs. Now the first Broodlords are being morphed. We have a bit of supply.
And he's just being very annoying right now. Actually chasing down a Queen here. Gets bungled though. We'll lose all these Stalkers. Not worth it to trade like this.
And of course Killer knows that he now has to prepare. He's getting the Stargate, so he wants to make sure that later on he can get the Mothership. Also the, the Robotics Bay. But at this point, he doesn't have anything like Colossus, like Storm. He just doesn't have these spells or these units and have the ability to do the crowd control here.
Yeah, the only thing he's been able to do at all during this late stage of the game is to do Zealot drops, where his opponent is not really prepared with Spinecrawlers, but now has Roaches in position and will defend the Zealot drop to the bottom right.
Double Robotic Spay actually being built by Killer, being on autopilot a little bit and not realizing that he already started one.
Yeah, Killer with great multitasking with his Warp Prisms, as somebody we talked about before, cancels the second Robo Bay.
Realizes it and cancels it immediately.
But he's got a Fleet Beacon on the way now. He has a chance here. He's got a lot of resource, a lot of bank that he's built up, but he needs to make sure that he can win that crucial fight with the Mothership. YugiOh may not give him the time to even get a Mothership out, though. If he actually realizes what's going on and goes for an attack right now, he will not allow Killer to have the Mothership, not even a little bit.
I actually think that Killer did not build the second Robotics Bay because he thought he didn't start it yet, but because he wanted to start the Fleet Beacon and just mess it up.
Yeah, quite likely. And he's going to go for a little drop here with 4 Overlords. He's forcing Killer way out of position while he resecures all of his base. He's got the base at the bottom left being rebuilt. And the Stalkers here are actually not going to trade very well against Roaches at the top of a ramp, so he actually takes out several Archons.
These Roaches are actually trading very, very well. Yeah, this position is awful for Killer. He actually loses 4 Archons.
That could have been so much better fought. Warp Prism Speed comes out, which is a great choice for Killer, but the drop in his main is going to be a problem.
He might be able to kill the upgrade.
If he goes for it, he certainly will. He could also potentially kill the Fleet Beacon, so no additional other ships can be made. He's just going to kill probes in the main, or at least attempt to. Zealots are warped in. This is not minerals that Killer wants to spend this way. He's losing so many probes, in fact.
With the Archons, the models that he just drops, he can definitely shut down the Roach aggression in his main base without a problem at all. There's still a few at the third base, but also, yeah, they have been killed as well.
A lot of Zealot harassment continues, though, for Killer. He has limited the Harvester count for YugiOh down to 50. With all the bases he has, he's not saturating basically any of those fully.
And talking about counts, the Infestor count is getting completely crazy. 24, that's what the Infestor count will look like in just a few seconds when those spawn production have been finished. And Neural Parasite, of course, helps a lot against the Mothership.
Yeah. I'm thinking that at this point YugiOh just has total control over the game. How can Killer do this without one crazy Vortex? That's all the chance he has in the world. He's continuing to harass with Zealots, but there are Roaches in position, there are Spinecrawlers in position. He's just kind of dumping minerals into this harassment that has not been successful at killing hatcheries. Has killed some workers, but his income is terrible.
Exactly. YugiOh has twice the mineral income. In regards to gas, he is also ahead, not as significantly as in the mineral income, but it's just a better position for him. Now with a Blink, taking down a Queen and an Overlord. Vortex is really what he wants. But
Greater Spire takes it out with that Warp Prism Speed, but he's going to lose 2 Immortals here. And the Broodlord count is already up at 8, so he's already restarts the Spire. But the count that he has of Broodlords is still going to be able to deny any more bases from Killer if he uses it correctly. And I'm a little bit surprised that we do not see YugiOh starting to finally moving out and poking with those units. He's very concerned about the drops of his opponent. He's got so many Infestors, though.
He knows about the 4th base that Killer just started at the left side, and if he's able to take down the 4th, that's all that he needs, because Killer is running out of money. We already talked a little bit about his income, and it's not looking good. It's not looking good at all. He needs this 4th, and this is the one thing that he will try to defend.
And he will actually defend it. No problem. Meanwhile, more Zealot Warpins at the bottom left. He's actually going to be able to target down the hatchery if he decides to. He will get the drones at least. And the hatchery now being targeted by Killer. Killer just continuing to use these Warp Prism drops. We talked about it before, and he's doing it again. The Mothership is so critical for him right now. He needs it not only to Vortex the Broodlords, but also he wants to hope that he can get those Infestors a little bit in there as well.
Once again, a drop play. This time at Natural, walking right into the main of the army. But at the left side, at the 4th base for Killer, he unborrowed his Roaches, YugiOh that is, and starts to attack. Well, now he realizes that not all of them are shooting. But where is the attack from YugiOh? He needs to do some damage.
Exactly, because if Killer gets remaxed again and he has this new base up, he's going to be totally fine. Right now his upgrades are at 2-2. He can start 3-3 very soon with that new hatchery. New Nexus, excuse me. Stalker's blink forward against these Corruptors. There's not a lot of support. He needs to get those Infestors with it, but now the Infestors come. 30 Infestors in total out here. The chance of one of those getting a Neural is pretty high, especially with only 3 Colossi in the mix here.
I think we need a James Bond. We need
James Bondfester, man.
Right now we only have Infested Terrans, no Neural whatsoever, plus 3 attack for the ground, also of course very important for the Broodlings. It's halfway done. Another Observer is also on the production tab, whereas he has no 5th base for YugiOh. He needs another base as well. His income is not looking too great either, especially with Killer having now a 4. And here come the units. The Infested Terran still going strong, and he has so much energy left on his Infestors.
Yeah, he's just using the Infested Terrans to kind of set up a buffer zone behind his Infestors, almost using them like Broodlings. And he's just trading energy for hit points on these Archons while he kills the Nexus in the center. And Killer decides it's time to go. He's reached that going point where he's like, there's no turning back here. Oh, Neurals on Archons. He's just got so much energy here. He can afford to do this.
And here comes a Blink, a forward Blink to take down both of those Infestors. Only one dies though. The second one is allowed to live for a few additional seconds. And if a Neural goes off at the mothership, this will of course be the worst case scenario for Killer. Then the Vortex would be used immediately.
Yeah, he's actually got 2 Vortexes available, so you want to spam both of those out. Greater Spire now being restarted for YugiOh, who, because of all the harassment from Killer, does not have a big bank anymore. Killer has actually fought his way back into this.
Yeah, he definitely did. And with a good Archon Toilet, he can take down, well, the biggest part of the army of YugiOh. So right now, both of them just trying to find a position where they can engage their opponent, trying to find a spot, and Killer has found something. He's already on the ramp and taking down his opponent's 4th base, and this is going to be a problem.
Yeah, his economy is in the trash right now. This is so bad for YugiOh. He needs to get a key engagement. He needs that Vortex, and conversely, Killer needs the he needs it. Where is he not using it? He's being targeted.
Wow, he loses the mothership. We have a run by to the left side as well. A few of the Stalkers die, and at the same time, those Zerglings are actually in a position where they can take down the Nexus, which is exactly what they're trying to do right now. Both of them being so low on income. We have another base at the bottom for YugiOh, but the income right now is really in shadows for both of them.
You guys didn't see it, man, but I'm telling you, he actually just watched his mothership die. He didn't Vortex, he didn't micro his Stalkers. He must have been concerned about the Lings or something else, but he had the mothership selected. That was super weird, and now he's lost his trump card, he's lost his bases, both of them are down. And yeah, YugiOh has less mining, and he's having to remake another hatchery, but he's got the better army, and Killer can never fight this army with all these Infestors and Broodlords without a mothership.
And more important is he can't build one, he doesn't have the gas.
No gas. 52 is not going to buy you anything.
At the top we have once again a few Zerglings just running in and doing damage, but here's the main body of the army. He's trying to move in, and with the 35 Infestors, he has such a huge Infestor count that at this point in time it's so hard for Killer to actually engage, but he's gonna try nonetheless.
And he gets great Archon hits on those Corruptors in the first few times. He needs to push through though, and he's fighting off creep with no real units underneath. He's only using Infested Terrans, but they're all dying so fast. Killer can't attempt to break through here. There's just a little bit too many Broodlords and Infested Terrans.
Finally, the Corruptors are joining the battle as well and take care of the Colossi. The first 2 are already dying, and Killer's down to 50 supply against 180.
Still only 52 gas. All of his assimilators are mined out. He loses the last 2 Stalkers, and this is going to be game for him. Losing the mothership was just too much.
Yeah, exactly. YugiOh is going to win this. GG. Killer leaves the game and is therefore the one player in this group that doesn't have a single win.
Yeah, looking pretty rough for him so far. Looking very frustrated as well now in the booth.
And Killer is gonna play a Protoss versus Protoss in his next game. The next 3 games are Happy against Supernova, Creator against YugiOh, and Vampire against Killer. And historically, this is the worst matchup that Killer has in the PvPs that we've seen from him in the past. He didn't really shine. So if that didn't change, then he is looking possibly at 0-3 in this group, which would mean that he is in Code A and has no chance to get into Code S.
Yeah, then he kind of becomes that sandbag player that kind of floats around, not able to do anything in the group, but people just beat him for points. And that's never a situation you want to be in.
Yeah, that is so true. So that's definitely what he wants to avoid here. Right now, looking at the group, we have Supernova taking the first place with 2 wins and not a single loss. And we have 4 players with 1 win and 1 loss so far. Happy Creator, Vampire and YugiOh. So now things get serious.
Yes, things are starting to get a little bit more concrete here as the points start to rally up. It becomes impossible for certain players to get out. Some players get in for sure. And, you know, it's never a good situation to be where you are like Killer. If you're at 1-1, yeah, you're feeling pretty good right now. Even if you're at 0-1 at this stage, which I believe actually no one is because they've all played their second matches, but if you're in a situation where you're at 0-1 before this happens, you start to get into this group, you find yourself at 0-2 like Killer does, or even 0-3, then it's like, well, what are you going to do?
0-2 is still something that is alright, you can still get out of this, but you have to win from now on, and that's exactly what the Killer's job is in the next game. So if he is able to just overcome his Protoss versus Protoss curse, maybe he's able to get back into the picture, but right now things are looking grim. We're heading into a 3-minute break, 5-minute break, whatever, and then we're back with the next matches here at the GSL Up Down CNFU.